over the course of the class period today, people have asked some really good questions. And some things have popped up that, honestly, it didn't occur to me to talk about before. People get confused sometimes and think that the parentheses automatically means that you have to do something with that number first, especially when we do one like we're going to in a minute, where you have like 3 or 4 different numbers that you're adding together. When we're dealing with negative numbers, all these parentheses do is keep it organized, okay? Because like a plus sitting next to a minus could be confusing to people. So when we've got a big old line where we're going to be adding several numbers together in a minute, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to add the one with the parentheses. It's just that we like to use it to keep it organized, right? So if we're adding 2 negatives together, okay, so step 1, you're simply going to add the digits. Step 2, you're just going to apply the negative. We all know that, right? I owe you $3. I owe you $8. I'm a total of 11, negative 11 in debt. Right? So step 1, I added those digits together and got 11. Step 2, I applied the negative. If I add a negative together with another negative, it's still going to be a negative. What do you think is the most common mistake that people make when they're adding negatives together? Yes, sir?
They make it a positive.
Why would they make it a positive?
Because when you multiply and divide it, it's positive.
Because when you multiply and divide, it's a positive. That's what several of you guys did on your little pretest. It was little mistakes. When you're adding negatives together, it stays a negative. I owe you this, I owe you that. Okay, add it all together, I'm in a bigger debt. Okay, so now we're going to add 2 different signs. And I'm about to be a little bit mean to middle school teachers, and I don't mean to, especially since I was one. Okay, but there's something that 7th grade teachers sometimes say to help you remember how to add different signs that drives me up the wall because it's not mathematically correct. Okay, not all of them do it, okay, but sometimes they do because it's easy to remember this way. All right, so the example we're going to do is negative 50 plus positive 35. Now, they have all kinds of cutesy little songs and, you know, anybody ever heard that row, row, row your boat song? Okay, please forgive my, please forgive the singing, but it's like same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract, okay? Which I'm cool with the first part. I'm cool with that part. Okay, same sign, add and keep. Obviously, that doesn't apply here, right? Different sign, subtract. So I am going to do that different sign. Subtract. 15 minus 35 is 15. Now, here's the part that really gets me because they go, take the sign of the higher number, then it'll be exact. Take the sign of the higher number. Why do I have a problem with that part of the song? Makes sense, or it should make sense. Because, I mean, 50's bigger. Negative 50's bigger, right? It should be a negative. No? What did I just say that you disagree with? Negative 50 is a smaller number than positive 35. So absolutely no offense. I was a 7th grade math teacher, so I'm allowed to pick on myself. When I first started teaching, I did this. Okay? And then one day it clicked. I was like, oh, crap, I'm telling them something wrong. So then I changed it. The song's already bad enough with my singing, so who cares if the syllables are off a little bit? So I'm like, take the sign of the higher absolute value. Okay, so pretty bad, right? But it stuck. All right? So, or I'm even fine with saying, take the sign of the one you've got more of. Okay, that's not grammatically correct. Because hopefully if you have a good English teacher, you know that you're not supposed to end a sentence with a preposition of. Okay, but you can. And that's actually kind of the way I like to think about it, because I think about it in terms of like combining and like what cancels out and what doesn't. So step 2, you can write step 2 however you want. Take the sign of the higher absolute value. Take the sign, I'm going to say take the sign of the one you have more of. Even though I understand grammatically that's not correct. Yes, ma'am.
The way my 7th grade teacher did it, like, instead of saying, like, the song, you say, like, the negative as hate and the positive as love. So when it's a negative plus a positive, they say hate to love, so it's going to be negative.
Oh. Or love to hate if you do it backwards. I have heard that too. Okay, so I think we're all good with the adding. The subtracting is the one that on our pre-test kind of got us a little bit. So now I'm going to move on to subtraction. Now, I get this question. I get the same question over and over again from students all 14 years that I have taught either integers for the first time or it's come back to review. I get people who ask me this question in this subtraction problem. They say, is that a negative or is that subtraction? She'll get you in 1 second, baby. Okay. Is that 12 a negative or is that subtracting? I get that question a lot. Anybody know what my response is?
Subtraction.
It's what?
Subtraction.
It is negative.
It's a negative.
It's subtraction. It would have, like, parentheses around it if it was negative.
What if I told you you're all right? It is negative and it's subtraction.
Right. I forgot about
Because
that.
negative and subtraction really means the same thing. Okay? So we're going to, like, kind of write this out. I'll show you what I mean. If what I just said isn't making sense. And you'll see that I like to abbreviate a lot because I don't like to write more than I have to. Subtraction equals a negative. It's really the same thing, guys. And I'll give you an example. What's 5 minus 3? 2. We know that, baby math. What's 5 plus a negative 3?
Negative.
It's still a 2. I heard you say a 2. It's still a 2. Didn't you accomplish exactly the same number? Subtracting and then doing a negative the other way? It's because it means the same thing. So especially now that we're in Algebra 1, when you guys are going to be combining some crazy expressions with lots of like terms and it's going to be very long, you need to get out of this, wait, is this subtraction or is this a negative or what? You are going to need to realize, you know what, really, that's a negative 15 that is just being combined with a negative 12. If you're thinking about me when I was in college, this would sum up my checking account perfectly. I was already $15 broke. I'd already overdrafted. To this day, even though I'm 40, I cannot write a check to Walmart. They won't let me write one because I used to write so many bad checks when I was in college. So even now that I'm 40 and it's been decades, they still remember me. They won't let me. So I would have my checking account at negative 15 a lot. Then I'd be a dummy and I'd go out and I'd spend another 12. So it went down even more. So negative 15 minus 12, you're really just combining two negatives together. Same sign, add and keep. They're the same sign. So what we just did a second ago, we're just going to add the digits. 15 and 12 is 27. So we're just going to add, I don't know why I didn't line that up right. That looks stupid. Sorry, guys. So I'm just going to add those digits together and then do what I did upstairs in the previous, and I'm going to apply the negative. So I've got a negative 27. A subtraction sign is the same thing as a negative sign. You're just combining them. So you're combining like terms together. Now that's if you've got a minus and a minus. It's going to look a little bit different if I'm doing this example right here. Negative 18 minus negative 3. We talked about this yesterday. Negative 18 minus -3. Did I get around to telling you guys what happens when I switch over to red? I didn't tell you. I thought I did. Yep. This sure is what I see a lot. I saw a lot of this on your pretest, to be honest. Okay, because we forgot about this rule. Why do you keep yelling at me to add? Because I don't see any adding anywhere.
Because a negative, a subtraction sign and a negative equals positive.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, this subtraction sign, your kindergarten teacher taught you this. This means take away. That's a really ugly K. I don't even know what that was. That subtraction sign means take away, and there's your negative. Well, what happens if you take away a negative? It turns it into a positive. I believe I told you that I'm very visual. If I can't see what I'm doing, I can't understand it. So I always take the extra step to do that negative, turn it into a plus. So -18 plus 3, same sign, add and keep. This is a different sign. Same rules from above. So we're going to subtract. So -18 plus 3, or I'm sorry, I'm just subtracting the numbers right now. 18 minus 3 is 15. And then we're not going to take the sign of the higher number. We're going to take the sign of the one we have more of. Take the sign of the one we have more of. Take the sign of the one with the higher absolute value. However you want to say it. Then it'll be exact. -15. Last but not least, now that we've tackled adding and subtracting, the multiplying and dividing is going to take about 5 seconds because you guys did a good job with the multiplying and dividing for the most part. We just need just a little reminder just in case. When you're multiplying and dividing, the key idea here is that every 2 negatives, only when you're multiplying and dividing, results in a positive. Especially now that we're in Algebra 1, we're not just going to multiply 2 numbers together. Most of the time we multiply several. So -3 times -8 times 2. Order of operation says that when you've got all multiplication, actually not order of operations, commutative property, your teacher should have taught you something called commutative property. If you're not doing anything but multiplying, you can really multiply in any order that you want. I have a tendency, though, to go ahead and roll just going from left to right. So my first things first, so those 2 negatives.
It's going to be a positive.
Yes, ma'am, it sure is. So -3 times -8 is going to give me a positive 24. You'll see I switch back and forth between parentheses and the little dot because I like you to get used to seeing multiplication in both ways. In algebra, that's how we do it. We don't do an X because we get that confused with a variable. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. A variable. And then, of course, we're just going to multiply those 2 positives together. We end up with 48. So any 2 negatives that you have will result in a positive.